Grazing, ranching need negotiation, not force. Welcome to the news and please subscribe to our channel. Brute force without wisdom falls by its own weight. Now the news in detail. Nigerian leaders on politics and even in the private business always operate in the belief that might, however defined, is right. Thus, when differences of views develop in any organization, the first instinct of everybody is not negotiation. We reach first for our power to settle the matter in our favor. That explains why there is violent conflict in most African nations from Algeria to Nigeria, particularly when the leader of a country is involved. Today, watching the news broadcast about Africa on CNN, BBC, channels, AIT, Al Jazeera or South Africa, one cannot escape the feeling that this is a continent perpetually at war. Unfortunately, Nigeria is not only the self-acclaimed giant of Africa, it has become the real leader in bloodshed for a country not at war yet. More heartbreaking is the damage the perpetual and wide-ranging conflict are inflicting on the economy. Nigeria is now acknowledged world leader in poverty, but we are our own worst enemies. We are poor because we refuse to cooperate to get out of poverty. Our leaders act to subvert our economic interests because the vast majority of our elite, including those in the media, encourage bellicosity in the president and the governors. They take refuge in the self-serving belief that the voice of the people is the voice of God when it serves their purposes. The same people clamor for good governance and are often ignored. Right now, the racket of the masses on both sides of grazing and ranching conflict is close to insanity because it had no basis in reality. Yes, everybody, there were once grazing routes. President Buhari's search for grazing routes is akin to someone now looking for dinosaurs. Yes, grazing routes existed years ago. That is not a figment of Buhari's imagination. But like dinosaurs, they are now extinct. How did I know about the grazing routes? My late senior half-brother at University of Ibadan, Professor B.K. Ogumodede, told me. He spent almost his entire university career at the development of animal science and was part of several research teams at UI. He died 3 years ago, but not before shedding some light on my ignorance about grazing routes. When the first signs of a national catastrophe were perceived in the sack of Agatu Benue State in 2016, I joined a lot of ignorant Nigerians to demand for immediate ranching as a solution. Big Brother, a subscriber to Vanguard, read it and gave me a call asking me to see him at Ibadan. After telling me that I was making a fool of myself and misleading people, he proceeded to explain to me why immediate ranching of 15 million cattle was impossible. I will explain this part later. Then he went into his library in the house, brought a very old and brown-colored booklet, it was white originally, which clearly showed the marketed grazing routes which were established so that researchers could easily locate the herds of cattle they were working with at the time. They covered nearly every part of our present 36 states. Then he turned to me and said, the root cause of the problem with herdsmen was the failure of the drafters of a land use decree of 1978 to remove grazing routes from land turned over to state governments. General development, roads, residential housing, farms, schools, hospitals, factories, stadiums, religious centers, airports have taken over many grazing routes. Meanwhile, the cattle population has steadily grown from about 5 million in the 1970s till today. You are an economist. You should know that when supply of an indispensable commodity dwindles while demand goes steadily up, society has a collective problem to solve. He then went into ranching and the cost of establishing and maintaining one, using UI's mini ranch, where I go to collect cow dung. As example, he informed me how many millions a year it cost the university just to ranch about 200 cattle. It was frightening. He left it up to me to go and figure out how much investment will have to be made to place 15 million cattle in ranches. Like a sleepwalker who suddenly received a dirty slap, I woke up suddenly to reality. I could not contest his final verdict. Total ranching is impossible now. We have to set a target for that. Meanwhile, this cattle must be fed, otherwise we all starve. Two lies do not make a truth. When truth gets out of balance, we can get dangerously close to error. On the issue of herdsmen and farmers' conflicts, all Nigerians are caught between two half-truths, which are not only leading to wrong conclusions, but are driving us into blunder of more violent conflicts. Nobody will benefit from that war, especially now that age of oil is drawing rapidly to a close. We will need everything we can get from increasing agricultural output, cattle included. Buhari represents the first half-truth. Being the life patron of the Miyetti and Cattle Rearers Association of Nigeria, Magban, has blinded him to the atrocities of herdsmen, raping women, destroying crops, murdering and kidnapping male farmers are not and will never constitute a legitimate function of cowboys that is merely destructive. He's concerned that in the competition for land use grazing routes have lost out and the available open land mass is shrinking is, however, a real problem for all Nigerians. Not just Magban and Buhari alone to solve. Lacking a real understanding of a problem as well as persuasive skills, the president has reached for force. He treated the excesses of Magban with benign neglect, blamed the victim of the atrocities, quietly encouraged the army and the police to give support to herdsmen and the hope that victims of the injustice will surrender. He was unpleasantly surprised by the response. The other half-truth is represented by the governors of the states, which have enacted the no-grazing laws nationwide. The clamor by erudite but ill-informed people in the affected areas for ranching overlooks three important facts. They cannot be wished away. First, the ranches are not ready. They may be ready in the long term, but cattle, like people, must eat today and every day. There are no ranches to which 15 million cattle can be moved now. That sort of reasoning puts the cart before the horse. It cannot work. Second, the laws cannot effectively enforce as long as every commissioners of police and inspector general of police, IGP, reads Buhari's language to mean keeper of herdsmen irrespective of atrocities committed. The various state security outfits so far created cannot read the state of herdsmen without long drawn-out battles for years ahead. Third, the states have merely attempted to send herdsmen out whilst expecting relatively cheap meat to be available to their people. That is the worst sort of wishful thinking. Cow meat has been relatively cheap in Nigeria because cattle feed is mostly free. Once ranches are established, prices will soar. Nobody is telling the masses now, yet it will happen. There is only one way out of this Mexican standoff in which nobody is getting their way: negotiations. The negotiators will have to start from one reality. Open grazing cannot last forever, but total ranching can also not occur now. We need a national plan to ensure orderly withdrawal of cattle to ranches. This has brought us to the end of the news, and on this note, we have come to the end. We say thank you for tuning in to listen. Until I come your way next time, enjoy the rest of the day.